Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for tuning into my very thoughtful world. I am Kanisha. As you guys know, I work super hard to bring you all positive, powerful women who are living their dreams by pursuing their dreams, doing the thing they love, and earning money while they're doing it. So tonight, I'm excited to have my guest on, Miss Jocelin. Jocelin, please tell everybody about yourself.
Hi, I'm Jocelin McElderry. I am the connection specialist. I help midlife women to reconnect with themselves to go on to be the great that they've always desired to be and haven't done just yet. But we're
Wow.
trying to change that.
So tell us, explain more of that. Like, tell the woman who's watching, how would she know if
All
she's in
right.
you?
I actually work with women that are over 50. My tagline is I'm empowering women over 50. Unfortunately, so many of us, we go through life, early part of life, we meet somebody, we have babies, get married, all of those things that we might not get to that thing that we've always thought about doing. Or we find ourselves in divorce and now we don't know what to do with ourselves because we've always been somebody's mom, somebody's
Mm.
wife, somebody's sister, somebody's daughter. So you need some help going back and saying, I can do this.
Wow.
For me, it was just being able to enter my second act of life at 55.
So tell us about it. Tell me what your first act looked like first before you talk about your second.
All right. My first act was I'm a registered nurse. I've been a registered nurse 37, almost 38 years. So I actually worked for 31 with the Wake County government. And they told me after 30 years, I could get a check and go to the house and get that check. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to take you guys up on that. So I retired at 55 with
Nice.
31 years of service.
Wow.
And I was like, what am I going to do with myself now? Because I am a believer. And
Mhm.
I can tell you honestly that the enemy spoke to me for 90 days straight. We have to fill our paperwork out 3 months before we're going to retire, right? So the enemy literally spoke to me just about every day. What are you going to do with yourself? This is all you've ever done. This you don't know how to do anything else. So what you going to do? Just to be a discouraging thing. And even some people were like, well, what are you going to do with yourself? You're too young to retire. And one of the things that I've come to realize is that too many African Americans think that they have to wait until Social Security to retire.
That's right.
But if, but if you work in a place that pays you well, if you save your money and open an IRA or some type of retirement planning, you can leave after a certain amount of time.
Wow.
Also,
Wow.
if you work for government, if you work 30 years, there's really no benefit to staying past that time.
Wow. Wow.
So a lot of times we just don't do enough investigation of
Mm.
what is possible. And we don't always buy into the things that are offered to us. If your company offers a 401k plan and they match it, when you retire, you can get all the money,
Yeah.
what you put in and what they put in, once
Yeah.
you get that time. Now, if you leave that place, you'll have to roll it over into another retirement vehicle. And then at 59 and a half, you can get it without penalty.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But we don't always investigate that. But I did. I had an awesome work mama who taught me some things. And she taught me don't take your raises, put it in your 401k. You won't
Oh,
miss it anyway because you're not used to it.
right.
When I worked overtime, she said put some extra in your 401k, pad
Mm.
it so you can have that later on. That's in addition to your regular retirement. That's your regular pension that you'll get.
It's good.
So it was things like that that helped me in my first act of life to
Mm.
be able to play and do some things that I like doing in my second half of life.
So, what are like some of the things you've done in this second act?
This second act, I actually decided that I was going to start a business. Actually, I've started a couple of businesses.
Okay.
My first love is called Day of Event Coordination.
Mm.
And I did it for a friend of mine for like 3 of her events. And finally, she said to me, "You're going to stop doing this for free. You do know this is a business." That's number one, Kanisha. You need friends in your life that will help you understand that you have something that's valuable and
Yes.
that you can monetize that thing.
Yeah. Let me ask
And
you this: why were you doing it for free for so? Like, why were you doing it for free?
because it was just for her. And it
Oh,
never occurred to me that it would be a business.
so you had never done it for anyone else, just the one
Nope.
friend.
I had not done it. I had just done it for her. And she just finally said, "No more. You're not going to keep doing this for free. We're
Good
going
for
to
her.
flush this out and you're going to do this.
Yeah.
And you're going to charge for it." And
Good.
then, we just went through and set up some things. And I still do some of that now, not as
Mhm.
much because, COVID came along
Yeah.
and we stopped having um, in-person events. So that put a real skirt to that type of business.
Mhm.
But as things are opening back up, I've had a couple of people to contact me to ask me to do it again. I said, "Well, we'll see. Let me think about that." Because what it does, all it is I come in on the day of the event and I run the show for the day so that you can look good.
Oh wow. Okay.
You don't worry about anything on that day. I
So
handle everything.
you don't decorate the place. That's not what's going on
No,
here.
I don't decorate. I don't do any of that. I come in and I actually run the show. I make sure registration is going. I make sure the vendors are in place. I make sure that I fight with the chef.
Okay.
I fight with the caterer. Make sure the caterer arrives on time, puts things where it's supposed to go, and how you're supposed to be laid out. I talk with you throughout the process and planning so that I know what the baby is supposed to look like on that day. And that's what I do, especially in the hotel areas. I
Yeah.
fight with the janitor. I fight with the heating and air man. They too cold. We need to turn it up. It's too hot. I fight with the chef again about the food. I
Yeah.
talk to people that are coming in late. What happened to their rooms? Those types of things if they got there on that day. So I do
That's
all of that stuff. And the
that's
and the
good.
host just sits up there and looks absolutely wonderful.
That's good because I've been to events where sadly the host was kind of the gatekeeper. And so
Right.
everybody is running to the host, asking all the questions and creating distractions, and it looked messy. It looks
No,
very,
ma'am. You
it
don't
looks
talk to my
unprofessional.
host.
That so yeah, more people need to hire you for that because I
Yeah.
think I hate to see that at an event because it
Right.
wears out the person who's there to just do one thing. But at the
Right.
same time, they may set it up that way where they're the gatekeeper. That you shouldn't be the gatekeeper at your own
Right. Right.
event.
But the other part of that is you have several types of hosts.
Okay.
You have some hosts that are able to release their baby,
Mm,
but you also have some hosts that don't know how.
mm, yeah.
So, one of the things that I do is I also talk to them during the process to help them understand you're going to release the baby to me on that day. And all I want you to do is look pretty.
Wow.
And it was very interesting because my friend, she said people kept walking up to her and said, "You're just enjoying this event and you look so wonderful. Why are you so calm?" And she said, "I have a team."
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like you create a team for other types of businesses, we have a team on that day.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
Mhm.
So now what's the other business? Because you talked about helping women who are in their 50s who
The other
actually
business
okay.
I do coaching and consulting with women that are over 50.
Mhm.
We have fun talking about what is it that you didn't do anymore? What was it that you really wanted to do and you didn't do? So
Yeah.
why can't we do it now?
Mm.
And, trying to help them get to a place where they understand, I can do this.
Mm.
Because there are so many things we talked about. Also, hormones are raging. There are they
Yeah.
have adult children that they
Mhm.
may need to get out of their homes. They discovered that um, after they've been married all this time and the kids leave home, them and their husband don't know what to talk about because
Yeah.
all they talked about was the kids.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we got an empty nest and I don't know what to do with myself. So, what
Mm.
is something that you enjoy doing? What is something that you always thought about doing? And a lot of times it's not always about monetizing that particular thing. It's just about getting you back to a place where you know that you can do something that you enjoy.
Yeah. So share with me a story, like one of your, because for me, I know as a coach, I have several clients who just do some phenomenal things throughout the process, and
Mhm.
everybody becomes my favorite client. But share with, I'm like, oh my God, you're my favorite. Anytime they show up and do results, like you're my favorite. Share
Right.
with me a story of someone where they started here and then after working with you, the results.
I had a young lady. I actually met her at a networking event,
Okay.
a virtual networking event, and she sent me the longest email. She said, "My mom needs you." And I
Hmm.
was like, "Okay." And she said, "Here's her name, here's her number." And I told her that you were going to call her. And what had happened was she had been married. Um, Unfortunately, she had been married to a narcissist for almost
Mm.
over 30 years. And so basically, what she needed was her confidence back.
Yeah.
She needed her confidence back. She needed to know that she was a viable, valuable person to society because
Mm.
for so long she was made to feel like this is all you can do.
Wow.
This is all you got. This is all you're worth. This is, because she had kids. She used to be a teacher and she stopped teaching because she had kids. He was in the military. Um, she had kids. Then she had a special needs child as
Mm.
well. The youngest child is a special needs child. So she was made to think that that was all she could do. But there was so much more to her, and
Yeah.
she had multiple facets. And so what she did was she became a part of a business, a multi-level marketing business.
Okay.
And she just kind of needed somebody to help her with her personal development and help her with her skills that she had stored on a shelf because somebody told her that's all you was good for.
Mm.
And
Wow.
now she is thriving and
That's
doing
awesome.
well. And she just really got into the business. It was a health and wellness company, and she really got into it. And I just helped her carve out some areas. She actually lived in San Antonio, Texas. So, we carved out some areas and some things that she could do to grow her business, places that she could go to showcase what she does. She actually had used her products. And so she had lost weight and so because of that, she was the poster child. So we
Wow.
just kind of flushed out some things that she could do to help her business thrive. And once she started thriving, her
Mm.
confidence,
Yeah.
it was like, oh, I can do this.
Mm.
Ultimately, and she also was finally able to say, I can divorce you. I don't have to
Really?
keep doing this. I don't
Wow.
have to keep dealing with this from you.
Yeah. And did she end up getting a divorce?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Well, her children had been telling her.
Well, that's good because I do know like a lot of women they lose themselves in their like you said in their these roles, right? Because
Mhm.
society, first of all, tell us what we're supposed to be based on. You're supposed to be a wife. You're supposed to be a mother. These roles that we take on, and then oftentimes as women, we are so quick. I know for me when I was younger, I was happy to take on the role of
Mhm.
like Andre's fiance because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I graduated
Right,
from college. And he
right.
was clear that he wanted to be a teacher. So I was like, oh, I help you be a teacher because I was confused about what I wanted to do. But I
That's right.
did prior to um, the children coming and that kind of thing, got very clear that I was not going to be Andre's wife and I was not going to be Bryce and Brianna's mama. Like I was going to be Kanisha. So, and I met women who just completely lose themselves, don't know what they don't have any dreams anymore, or they're afraid to dream because they put that on like that's not accessible to me. That's what other people do. So I think it's
Right.
great that you're helping these women in their 50s do that because you tell me if you've seen this experience. I've seen it where something happens around about 38. Yeah, like 38 to be about 45 is when most women will go, wait a minute. That part of like, I'm not happy. And we're willing to say it out loud or admit it. Or I
It
want to know
is
my purpose.
it is so crazy.
Yeah.
Um, because of all the things that we buy into from society.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the one. Um, that's just one that we buy into. As a matter of fact, I was actually on another podcast,
Mm.
and the podcast host, a young guy, young African American guy, sweet as he could be. And he was like, Miss Jocelyn, you are helping me because
Mm.
now I understand my wife better because they got married young, they had children early. So she pretty much lost herself in those roles. And now she was ready to find herself because they're now adults.
Yeah.
They were going on with their own lives. And so now she was ready to do some things. And he was feeling some type of way. And so, as he and I talked about it, or I talked about women and how we put ourselves on the back burner so that we can make sure our children are okay, and we can make sure that our households run okay, and make sure that we do all the things for
Mhm.
everybody else.
Yeah.
And now she was going back and looking at doing some of those things. And he was like, I thank you so much. He said, I thank you for being on my podcast because you're helping me.
Maybe more men need to hear that conversation.
And
I
and that's what I told him. I said,
Yeah.
you know, that's something I hadn't thought about, but more men may need to hear that
Yeah.
because I think both sexes go through something at an
Mhm.
age.
Mhm.
Um, women, we're very quick though to talk ourselves out of the thing.
That's true.
Men, they just go off and do what they do.
Yeah.
They go out and buy the Corvette.
Yeah. Figure out why later.
Right. Sir, you are 6'7". Why are you folding yourself up in that little bitty car?
Right.
But they do whatever it takes to make them feel better.
Yeah. Yeah.
We, of course, we downplay it.
Mhm.
We pretend that it's not real.
Mhm.
And we're deathly afraid to talk to our other friends that are married about it
Wow.
because we don't want them to, I don't want to cause anybody else to. Baby, you need to talk to somebody.
But Josh, I know what you mean because I would say this when I was about 38 is when I really
Mhm,
got that low place, right?
mhm.
Had the two children, had the husband. The problem was when I would say I wasn't happy, and no one would let me not be happy. They was quick to well, I don't understand. You have a great paying job, you have a husband, you got these two kids. And it was almost like, oh, so because I have what you all call the American dream, I'm not allowed to say. And I remember having to kind of quiet my sadness for a very long time. And it wasn't even like I'm not even the person who's like, I'm keeping up with the Joneses or need to pretend so you don't know how
Right,
miserable. I wanted to tell you I'm miserable,
right,
but
right.
people wouldn't let me. They
They
wouldn't let
wouldn't
me.
allow you to.
Mm-mm.
And then they would have other conversations, sidebar conversation with girl. I don't know what in the world is wrong with that Kanisha. She got everything you could
Yes,
possibly want.
yes,
Why I don't understand why she ain't happy. That don't even make sense to me. She got a husband, got a good job,
yeah,
he loves her, yada yada yada, all the things.
yeah,
But they
yeah.
weren't your things.
They weren't my
They
thing.
were things, but they
And
weren't yours.
yes, and the funny thing was, I remember when we left for the UAE and we came home to visit. And people were saying to me, "Oh my God, you look so good. You look." I said, "Well, what did I look like before? And why didn't y'all tell me? And when I was telling y'all how miserable I was, why weren't you making the connection?" But it like because I was carrying the weight of the world and I was so
Right.
stressed and it showed in
Right.
my face and my
Right.
posture.
Right.
And when I left and came back, now they're all like, "Oh my God, you look so good." I told y'all I was doing bad. So, yeah, I just really want women to know that they don't have to leave the country to find themselves, to get reconnected to who they are, and to tap into that part. Like one of the things I learned, you're a nurse, so you can validate this, but there was a book I read years ago called Living from the Heart of Jesus. It's a really great book. It's like a therapy. The two men that wrote it were Christian therapists. And they claim that there's an area in the brain, and I don't know what it's called, but they said it's once the brain fully develops, it's the only area that can grow and shrink. And it's based on your joy.
Wow.
So they observe, yes, that the people who have joy in their life, like it grows, but then when you don't, it shrinks. And so they did a study to show that like people who had joy, meaning people just checking in on them, they recover from illnesses quicker. If they had two people had cancer and one had family support, the one who didn't would suffer longer or either not recover.
Or not, yeah, not live. Right.
And so when I
Because
was going through a really hard time, yeah, I learned about that joy cup thing, and I am intentional about trying to keep my joy cup full.
listen, first of all, one of the major problems that we have in the African American household is that
Mm,
we are not taught how to have conversations.
say that
We're
again.
not taught how to express ourselves. You know, I think I think these current generations have taken it a little too far. But I think they've taken this thing way too far. But we weren't we didn't get any of that.
Yeah.
So what happens is we grow up learning to suppress how we
Mm,
feel about a thing, being sad about a thing, or possibly something happens to us along our journey, such as molestation, all these types of things that can happen, sexual abuse, those things that happen. And of course, we heard what goes on in the house stays in the house.
yeah.
That's so what happens is we go out into the world with that ideology,
Mm,
not not expressing ourselves even in our relationships because we don't know how.
yeah.
We don't know how to have a conversation without yelling and screaming and all
Mm,
these other things. And so what ultimately happens, I actually told him, it's our running joke. I have one child and her father and I were not married. And so our running joke now is he's baby daddy and I'm baby mom. So I had a conversation of late with baby daddy. And I literally, we talked about that. I said, nobody taught us how to talk. I said, we
mm,
might would still be together if we knew how to have a conversation and knew how
mm.
to talk about our feelings
That
and
part.
knew how to share with each other what is it that makes me angry? What do you do that makes me angry? Well, what do I do that makes you angry? And how can we come to some happy medium and
Yeah.
stay together versus breaking apart and leaving
And
this kid wanting his
fighting
mom and
to
dad?
death. Yeah,
Right,
like
right,
arguing to the death of the relationship. I
right,
totally agree with you. I know when I started doing this work,
right.
um, it was game. It was first of all, my whole brain felt like somebody flipped it upside down, right?
Mhm,
Because I started having language for everything. And that's what my clients are often say. They're like, you gave me language. I was recently counseling a young lady, and
mhm,
when I was asking her how did she feel about things or how did that make her feel, she would say, "Well, I feel like they don't understand me. I feel like they don't listen to me. I feel like," I said, "Sweetie, those aren't feelings.
mhm.
Those are thoughts."
Thoughts.
And every
Mhm,
time we would go back, and I could see her frustration with me, Jocelyn. It's as though she thought I was attacking her.
mhm,
And I pulled out the emotional wheel and I said, let's look at some of these words.
Right.
And it literally exhausts her. Like that, just that time, I saw all her energy leave her body. And I said, do you want to like shorten this session? And she said, yeah. I haven't heard back from her. I don't know if it scared the young lady or what, but we have to have emotional language for what we feel, because I tell them, when you don't have the words, it's like going to the doctor saying, my arm hurt, when it's really not even your arm. You know, it's something else. And you,
Right.
so he got here fixing your arm, you get back and be like, well, that, man, was it your shoulder the whole time? Yeah, I just didn't know what this was called. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's what
It
having
is.
having the emotional language is like. I'm trying to communicate to you that something is terribly wrong.
Right. Right.
I don't have the language, so you're just like, I don't
Right.
understand you. And so the whole argument becomes about you don't listen and you don't understand. And it's just like, no, because neither one of us are using language that either one of us can connect to.
And it's rampant.
Yes.
And it's very important that we help people find the language, because sometimes you save relationships. I grew up as an only child. I'm my mom's second child and my father's only child. And I suffered what people call mother wounds. But I didn't know that that's what it was until somebody finally gave me language for it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
finally said to me, it was a friend of mine, and she had a similar situation, and her mother did similar things to her. And she said, Jocelyn, it's not your imagination. This is really happening. Your mom is actually jealous of you. And in my mind, I'm thinking, how are you going to be jealous of somebody you gave birth to? Then I realized later through therapy.
Yeah.
I'm an advocate of therapy.
Yes, me too.
Because you need someone that is totally removed to help you, number one, get language for the problem.
Yes.
Number two, help you with resolutions.
Yes.
And help you process your feelings about that.
That's right.
And sometimes have conversations with the people.
Yeah.
The other thing for me was someone saying to me, well, this is what I need you to do. This is your assignment. Ask her about this. Ask her about this. And ask her about this. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about it.
Wow.
And what I realized is my mom didn't know how to mother because she wasn't mothered.
Wow. Yeah.
So it helped me have better language. But, I recognize too, my mom is 82.
Okay.
And so we're not going to get a whole lot of change
Yeah.
at this point, right?
Yeah.
My dad is 84. So, we're not going to do a whole lot of changing. But what I did learn how to do was to speak up for myself. Because it wasn't just the simple things, Kanisha. I'm talking about every time I walked into the house, she looked me up and down to find something negative to say.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Every time.
Wow.
She didn't miss a time. But it took me to get to 56, maybe, to finally say, listen, this is not about you. This is what I like. And if you don't like it,
it's okay.
Oh, well. And it's okay.
Yeah.
But you no longer purchase my clothes, or you no longer get my hair done. You no longer are responsible for me. I'm now responsible for me. And it wasn't until that time that it stopped.
And even like you learning that, I'm sure, shows up how you do all of life. And that's the thing we have to understand. Those wounds, you call it the mother wound. I grew up with a father wound, right?
Right.
I didn't even know, like what you said, I didn't know it was that. My soul wound is rejection. So I thought everybody was rejecting me. So a lot of times I wasn't showing up for myself, not because they were doing something, but because in my mind, I was the victim. And so I just wanted to like let the ladies know who may be watching this, the reason you have to do this work, the reason you got to get into coaching or counseling or something, where one, you begin to learn the language, two, you begin to become awake. I call it awakening. Like you awaken to that there's this whole other world that's actually happening versus the one that you perceive because of the way you're thinking and because of your wounds. You got to do the work so that you can start the
Right,
business. Because a lot of times,
right.
Jocelyn, I did a whole master class. And when I was asking these ladies why weren't they doing the thing, nobody said, oh, because I don't have the strategy. No one said it's because I don't understand marketing. No one says because, oh, I don't know how to do a Facebook ad. They all says because of me, Kanisha, because I'm afraid, because of fear, because I'm holding myself back. And that is the work. That's the deeper work that we all have to do to get out of our own way. And I always like to share with people, I'm still doing the work.
It
It's
doesn't
not,
stop.
it does not stop. It
It's
does
not
not
a
stop.
one and done. Because
No.
what happens is even when you do the work, now
Mhm.
my thing was rejection, just like you.
Yeah.
So what I did was I looked for love in all the wrong places.
Hmm.
And I allowed things that I probably should never have allowed.
Yeah.
All of those things as a result of that. So
That's
what
right.
I had to do was use I had to use the skills that I was given once I was given them. I
Yes.
had to learn you are valuable because in my mind, mother wound translated to me, if my mama don't love me, who will?
Yeah, that's right.
That's what it translated to me in my mind,
Right.
whether it's true or not. And a lot of
Totally.
times it's not. They're
It,
loving you the
no,
best that they know how.
that's right.
It's
Yeah.
not that they don't love you. They
That's
just
right.
love you the best that they can. They're
Yeah.
doing the best that they can and have. So
Hmm.
it takes the work to deal with that. But
Hmm.
rejection can rear its other ugly head in another place. Well, I'm not going to apply for this job because if I don't get it,
That's right.
why not apply for it? Because we know for sure that you won't get it if you don't apply.
That's
That's a given.
guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Guaranteed. That's a guarantee. If you
Yeah.
don't apply, you're not going to get it.
Yeah.
And I found that I was super confident in my work, but the rest of my life was a
Mm.
shambles.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can find one thing that we're really great at and we'll
Mm.
overwork that. You couldn't beat me at working.
Yeah.
That was something you could never do. You could not beat me at working. I can go to work. I can do the job. I can do the job for 16 and 18 hours. I can do
Mm.
all of these things,
Oh.
but the rest of my life is in a shambles. I got a guy that really, really loves me and really wants to take care of me, but I don't know how to talk to him.
Mm.
I got a guy that really wants to make a life with me, but I don't know how to talk. I don't know
Mm.
how to have conversations. I had the opposite of Kanisha, where I could talk. I was a great talker, but I was a horrible communicator.
Wow. And that's such a huge difference. And most women, I don't think know that, Jocelyn.
I
Um,
realized I
yeah.
was a great talker because I can talk about this surface stuff.
Hmm.
I can talk to you about your stuff.
Of course.
I can just have all kinds of conversations about stuff.
But not
But
talking about
I was not talking about the things that mattered.
right.
I could not communicate how I feel
Mhm.
when
Right.
how I feel when you say,
Yeah.
how I feel when you don't say,
Yeah.
when I don't know.
Yeah.
It causes this inside of me when you don't communicate with me.
Yeah. And that those are the game changers in relationships. And this is why I think a lot of
Yes.
times people go from relationship to relationship thinking there's something wrong with the other person because they don't understand the deeper things of relationships. But Jocelyn, I can talk to you all night, but I really can. But one thing I do like to always ask all my guests before I let them go is, what is the book that you would recommend, that either like the book that really changed you or shaped you, or the book you absolutely think to yourself, I think every woman should read this book?
Hmm.
And we know the Bible.
Yeah, I- that definitely was that when I learned how to crack it for myself, crack the code for myself, and not what somebody told me,
Mm,
because that's another issue for us in the kingdom,
yeah.
is that we don't always crack the code for ourselves. Um, I've had several. Um, One was when it came to a relationship, and my relationship with God was What to Do Until Love Finds You by Michelle McKinney Hammond.
Wow, I love the
And
title.
listen, what she did was she paralleled your relationship with God and your relationship with the dude that you thought was all of that. And she said, well, God is that dude.
Wow.
So it was really amazing for me. And then another book that I read was Heart Ablaze by John Bevere,
Okay.
talking about that fire that you have inside of you for God. But also, I could liken that to things in life.
Mm,
You know, what is it that makes me excited? What is it that makes you burn? And boundaries.
I heard that one's really good.
My therapist recommended boundaries because, unlike most people, Kanisha, I never pointed my finger at everybody else. I had this revelation that, excuse me, I'm the common denominator. The people are different, but I was the common denominator. So
Yeah.
obviously, there was something in me that
Mhm.
needed to be challenged and changed. So my first ever therapist gave me the book on boundaries.
Mm,
And that was an assignment that she walked with me through because she needed me to learn how to set boundaries with my mom
okay.
without feeling guilty,
That's good.
because my mom was a guilter.
Yeah.
She would literally say things like, "Oh, you just don't love your poor old mama."
Mm,
Yeah,
wow. Yeah.
she said that regularly if I
Yeah.
wouldn't do something that
Wow.
she wanted me to do.
Yeah.
And finally, I got to the point one day I said, I certainly don't, because I don't have a poor old mama. You're right. I don't love her. I love
Yeah.
you.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So,
Yeah.
ladies, I hope that you really glean some really good stuff out of this conversation, because ultimately, the only thing that's stopping you from having the life you want, being in the type of relationship that you want, starting that business, or just even charging, like you probably already doing the work, but charging, it's just the way you're seeing yourself and thinking about yourself. So, we want you to get intentional and decide that it's okay to like love you, accept you, see you, not in light of what other people have done, but in just as simply in light of who God says you are. So have an amazing day. Thank you guys for watching. And remember, your thoughts become your decisions, and your decisions create your destiny. Have a great night. Thank you, Jocelyn, for coming on.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.